Welcome. I'm so glad that you could join me today as we're continuing talking about traveling to Sicily. This one is about information, the information that you need before you travel. It's all, look, there's two ways. You can just go and jump in and learn as you go. And this is for those people who want information and who desire to know more about Sicily. I've got a few books here with me that I've put aside. This one is a wonderful book written by Fabrizia Lanza. She owns the Casa Vecchie in, it's right in a remote part of Sicily in the mountains, but she has her own cooking school. So it's about an hour and a half, an hour and 3/4 out of Palermo. And you can stay there, learn about cook to the farm she has, and she has quite a lot of followers, and she's an amazing lady. Her name is Fabrizia Lanza. This is wonderful to discover parts of Sicily. And she tells you about her story. You know, if I can find some picture of her, this is, yeah. This is Fabrizia, wonderful lady. And if you know anything about the families, she comes from a very aristocrat family, so very well known and wonderful. And her story is amazing. Her mother was very wealthy, and she purchased the land, and she created a cooking school. So I've got a couple of her cookbooks as well, but I haven't got them with me here now, so I'm sorry about that. And Fabrizia was like passed the baton, but created in her own flair. And a lot of Americans go there, and I've been there, and it's a wonderful place. You feel just magnificent. You feel like the core and the heart of Sicily. Learning about the Italian cuisine, the cassata, the cannolo, knowing its origins and how it was created. The Italian cuisine is very different than the Sicilian cuisine. Is very. Oh, this is Fabrizia's mum. This is her mum. La Sicilia in Cucina. So it was already from her. That's it. I already had it. How cool is that? Her mother's name is Tasca Lanza. La Sicilia in Cucina. So these are the recipes that she created, and she tells you all about I pannelli, le ricette, I crocchè, patati, gamberi, which are prawns. The prawns totally are different than they are here in Australia or in America. Fava beans, lenticchie, pasta cana. Oh, this is beautiful, this pasta. It's a little ring, like little round rings, and they use it to make pasta al forno, which is baked pasta. Pasta Gisardi is a beautiful one to know. Isarda beccafigo. All the recipes. These are old, ancient recipes, but they're wonderful. And Fabrizia's been able to teach them from the recipes of her mother, which is wonderful to know, to pass the baton and to continue that passion. It's a wonderful place. Oh, it truly is a wonderful place to be there and to think, is this really like Sicily? You know, you think that, but it's so open. It's farm, it's rural land where she is. Oh, geez, forgotten the name of the place. Casa Vecchie. I'll write it down on the bottom. So don't forget, I'll write it down a bit about on the bottom. So this one, if you can get it on Amazon, it really is a nice introduction to Sicily of the now. It's written by Daphne Phelps. It's called A House in Sicily. Really, truly, her uncle, I've just got to try and refresh my memory. Her uncle owned, in the time of the war, owned this place, Casa Cucine. There you go. It's in Taormina. It overlooks the whole of Taormina. So if you've been watching The White Lotus, you will know about Taormina. It's amazing. But it overlooks the whole bay of the area of Taormina and in Casa Cucine. So it now has become part of the state, and it's all part of the art. So Daphne's uncle left her the house. So he had this house, and he was an artist, and Greta Garbo and all those ancient art actors would go there and stay there. That's how amazing this place is. So her uncle was very well known in that era, and so when he passed away, he left the house to Daphne, and Daphne had decided, she was in England, so they're English people, so she had decided that she was going to go to Taormina and sell the house. Something else happened. She fell in love with it, and that's where she lived the rest of her days. So it's an amazing book, and you can get it on Amazon. A House in Sicily by Daphne Phelps. So these 3 books, I've got another 2 to share with you that I think they're the core. There's so many. Look, I could spend another half an hour talking about different books, and I'm sure that you know that's not just all I've got. I've got closet loads full of books, and I've given away. Here's another thing to know. I Pupi Siciliani, the Marionetes. These are wonderful, about the puppets of Sicily. And you learn so much about these ones here. They tell you all about it. And then you find out more. They've got names, they've got characters, and they're all from the Marionetes, the times. Angelica was one of the females. Orlando and Rinaldo, they're the, if you've ever heard of those ones there. So you'll know a little bit. But it tells you a little bit of the theme, and you must visit the theatre. There's 2 theatres in Palermo, and there's one in Catania that I know of. And you can go onto my website, and there's times where I've told you to go and visit. And the people that I know, Giuseppe, he has his 4 generations there, and he has a little workshop near the cathedral in Palermo, and right across the road he's got his little theatre that his children now have taken over. He still works, and he still does the workshop, and he still does a little bit in the theatre, but his sons and daughters have taken that over. And it's an amazing evening to spend and watching the marionettes and the story that they tell you about the, I Pupi. We call him I Pupi, which means puppets in English. And it's wonderful to see that. And right across the road, probably about an hour and a bit it lasts for. And the last time I went, it was about 6:30 at night that they did the thing, and then go along everyone after that. You know, you have an aperitivo, and then you go and have something to eat. It's a wonderful experience to experience. So this one is another one that another book that I wanted to share with you. Sicilian cuisine. So different than the Italian cuisine. This one I actually bought in Sicily when I was there, because you can't get them here, Amazon. And it tells you about the story, about the Arab influence, the Greek influence, the Byzantine times, the oranges, the festivals that we have. We actually even have a bread festival. And you know that the bread is the bread of life. The first week in February. And now we're in March, so in March they have the Almond Blossom Festival in Agrigento, which is wonderful. And the second week, of course, they have the Cuttlefish Festival in Donna Lucata, the Tarocco Orange Festival in Francoforte, and the Feast of St. Joseph, which is on the 19th of March, because I've got 2 children, 4 children, but 2. One's named Joseph and one's named Josephine. They were named after my mother and father-in-law, which were Joseph and Josephine. And when they were born, there was no other name that we could put on them. We just had to put their names on them. So they have the Easter. So we're going in the month of March. They have it for the Tarocco oranges, which is the blood oranges, and the Feast of St. Joseph, and the Cuttlefish. Can you imagine the Cuttlefish festival and the bread and the donkey? This book is beautiful. It's Edizioni Affinita Elettive. So it tells you, look at this. Can you see that? Where to go, what to do. You can message me if you like, and I'll see if I can find it on Amazon, because this one is just like the seafood salad, the stockfish salad. You know, who would you think of making a stockfish salad, which is very marinated anchovies, masses au gratin. Do you think French influence? Yes. In the 1800s, we had Queen Carolina, who brought the French chefs in to Sicily. And that's where the influence of the French cuisine comes in. Sicilian arancine, so arancino or arancina. Sfincione palermitano. This sfincione dates back, round about the 1500. Pane cunzato, which means filled bread, like cunzato means cooked. So they put all delicious things, and there's a little shop in Scopello who sells just these, and the line is humongous, but it's made in the bakery in there, and the produce is all the local produce, like fresh anchovies, fresh semi-sun-dried tomatoes, the cheeses of the local region. It's just delicious, delightful, delectable, and you can't get it anywhere else. Look at these ones here. Scacciata with cauliflower. Scacciata bread. My mum used to make scacciata. Look at that. It's just bread that you toast, that you make like a pizza flour, and then you fill it, and you either put it in the oven. My mum used to fry it. So, you know, the pizza fried in Naples? Exactly like that. Just beautiful. Eggplant parmigiana. Stuffed eggplants. These are the things you get on the street foods of Sicily. Peperonata. And in some parts, it's, well, carbonata. It's the same. And then it tells you the stories with it. It's an amazing book. It's great to have for that. Pasta alla norma. Made in the 1800s from, I've forgotten the chef's name, but it was made right in the times of the opera Norma. Roberto Benigni, I think he was the composer of the opera, and when the chef made it, the composer said, "Ma questo è proprio una norma, questa pasta," and that's why it's like 100 years or more, it's still been named pasta alla norma. Pasta di broccoli, ravioli, spaghetti with sea urchins. Oh, absolutely beautiful. And mussels, there you'll find. You can find this one in my first book too. Spaghetti with cuttlefish ink. My favourite. And you can find that on my first book too. That's got the recipes. And couscous, the North African influence of Sicily. Because in the tip of Palermo, if you cross over, you are at Tunisia, and that's the tip of the end of North Africa. And it's got a lot of the influence of Sicily. We're filled with traders and people who've come by and left little bits of themselves. Anchovies, Sicilian sardine, meatballs. Oh, I used to make them all the time. Sardi a beccafigo. There's a little story I'd like to share you with the sardi a beccafigo, which is a wonderful story. It was the time of Queen Carolina, and the chefs wanted to make something for her. So in those days, they used to have birds, game birds. So they got the game birds. They were very much part like a robin. They looked like they were very little, but with a very long tail, and they're called beccafigo, which is they only eat figs. So their meat is very, very sweet. So the chefs created that, and they rolled it up, stuffed it in, and then they put it in the oven, and they cooked it. So that's what it looked like. But the tail up. They weren't sardines. So they were the birds, the gaming birds. And after the gaming birds, the people in the kitchen, so you would see a lot of people that are poor, you know, that couldn't afford to be there. So they worked in the kitchen of the Queen Carolina and all of the aristocrats. And between each other, they're going, oh, can you imagine this plate that the chefs have created, and how they stuffed it up and the tails are up, you know, and they've got this beautiful, delicious recipe that they were telling. Each one was telling the neighbours and the people of the villages and telling them all about that. So the Sicilians are the mother of invention. Necessity is the mother of invention, and Sicilians are that. So they decided to replicate this recipe. And in replicating the recipe, guess what they used? Sardines for that recipe. And they made them. And thus the recipe of i sardi a beccafigo. So the sardi a beccafigo is the name of the bird is called beccafigo, and they called it the sardi di beccafigo. So they still kept the beccafigo, which is the bird, the game bird that they used, but instead they used sardines. Isn't that a wonderful way of inventing? So yes, we have A House in Sicily by Daphne and Phelps, La Sicilia in Cucina by Tasca Lanza, Coming Home to Sicily by Fabrizia Lanza, I Pupi, Siciliani, Sicilian Marionetes. Now, I don't know who made this one. Text is Alfredo. I'll let that so you can see that. And I'll write them on down there in my description, so you can have a look, and maybe you can find them on Amazon. And this is the Sicilian cuisine. The King Cannolo. Now we have many versions of the cannolo, but the cannolo was made by the monks, the brothers. They used the canna, which is like a cane, like the cane, and then they wrapped it, they deep fried it, and they used the dough on the canna from the cannolo. And there's more. I can tell you, I can do one whole episode on the cannolo. This is the king, the pastry king. We have the king and queen in Sicily. So let me see. Okay, the king is the king cannolo, and that one there, the cassata, she is the queen. That is the pastry of Sicily. And the pastry of Sicily, that is just that. You can see the influence of the Arab influence of the marzipan that we make in there. And yes, in that you can go so many places and learn how to do it. And I would suggest that you do a few cooking classes, but I'm going to tell you on my next one. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is the book. So subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on Instagram, and we'll see you next. Arrivederci.